Speaking of happy thoughts, anybody here still owe a little money from medical school? Just a little? Let's find out. Yeah. 18% of medical school graduates currently owe over $300,000. So compensation is not a silly matter. It weighs on you all the time. But financial people would tell you that's high quality debt. Just like the good cholesterol, not all cholesterol is bad for you. Not all debt is bad for you. This is a good debt. There's obviously tax implications from it, and you got something for that. That's different than buying 3 cars and eating out every night at the restaurant and putting it all on your credit card and have consumer credit at 26%, and you're paying a debt for something that's has already been expended. You invested in this, so that would be considered a good investment. How about identifying the most rewarding aspects of your job? When they asked a whole bunch of ophthalmologists, what did they find? 44%, it was simply gratitude and the relationships they had with their patients, right? Didn't Dr. Fountain just get done telling you all about that? 27%, most rewarding, being good at what I do. 13%, knowing I'm making the world a better place. Now there's a balanced life. There's a balanced life. Remember, medicine is still a healing profession, and ophthalmologists, I think, are among the best of the healers out there. You are dealing with very scared patients, and they don't want to tell you. Most of them don't want to tell you. They're horribly frightened as to what might happen. They know somebody who had a problem with their eyes, and they're going to try to project it onto themselves. So you have a very important role with both your skills and your compassion. 10% think I'm making good money at a job that I like. Well, I hope you're part of that 18% that owes over $300,000. That's all I can say. 2% said nothing. And we're not done yet. There's another 2%. What's left if nothing is an answer? Oh, being proud of being a doctor. That was their number one answer. 2% said that. Wow. All right, let's bring up our next series of panelists on sustaining joy and passion throughout your career. We have Dr. Nisha Chadha, Dr. Grace Sun, and Srinivas Iyengar. Come on up here, Trini. Thank you all for being here. So, it's not all about work. It's not all about just waiting to see the next patient. It is a marathon. It is not a sprint. I know you're all keeping track of all the cliches today. Add that one. We're in the low 400s right now if you've been scoring. But it is a marathon, and a part of staying fresh and able to make that finish line is finding the joy and the energy and the passion to continue to do what you do. That often means resilience. That often means change. So I'm going to ask by asking each of our 3 panelists a very easy question. All right, if you can share with us, what do you do, all right, to inject as much joy and satisfaction into your career to help sustain the success that you've had, to help your career flourish?
Sure. So I'm Grace Sun. I am the residency program director at Weill Cornell. And the things that I do to maintain passion and joy are 2 things. One is volunteering, whether or not that's globally, internationally, or really in my own backyard. And 2 is education, so I continue to teach.
Okay, and when you mentioned the volunteering, medical volunteering, is that what you're saying, or volunteer for other things outside of medicine?
I do medical volunteering.
Okay, wonderful. Good. All right, and Nisha, tell us about you. What do you do to spark up your career?
So I would echo Dr. Sun's comments. I think volunteering is a great way, and there's multiple options at the domestic and international level. As a member of Eye Care America, I'm able to volunteer within my own office. So I'm volunteering while I'm at work through the program, seeing underserved patients in my practice.
Just tell everyone they may not know.
Sure.
A little snapshot about Eye Care America.
So Eye Care America is a program that provides access, eye care access to patients that haven't had an eye exam in over 3 years and are over 65. And the catch is that it's at no out-of-pocket cost to the patient. So the first question I get when I try to recruit people to join is, so we're giving them free care? Well, it's actually not the case. 88% of these patients are actually insured, but they just are not plugged into the system. So they're really just having their copay waived and getting plugged back into the system. And this program guarantees them at least a year of eye care through volunteers. So if you sign up, a patient signs up to be seen, and they're plugged in with a local ophthalmologist, and you're able to volunteer within the four walls of your office.
How much does that consume of your weekly practice?
It's very minimal, actually. We have so many volunteers that most of us see up to a maximum of 4 patients per year, but you're helping over 2 million patients that need eye care.
And this is just clinic services?
This is clinic services. The extent of care you provide is really up to you, and in terms of whether surgery is offered or not. Of course, hospital fees are not waived through this program, but just being able to screen patients for high risk visual issues is really helping patients get diagnosed earlier and hopefully prevent eye diseases.
All right, and Trini, tell us about some of the things you do that make your life more exciting.
Wow, that's a broad question. So there's a few. There's a
Would
few
you
things
pull that broad microphone a little closer to your mouth? Good, thank you.
There's a few things in my practice that I think that I'm in solo private practice in San Diego, and my interest, I've always liked world geography. So I have a map, a world map in my office. So when I have patients that come in, I try to make it a point not only to ask where they're from and point it out on the map, but I have a young college student working at the front desk. But I tell the patients when they get to the front desk to check out to make sure they ask the front desk girl what the capital of the country they're from. And so that's fine. It makes it for a fun sort of environment because the front desk girl, she's just learning the capitals now. And it creates it for a humorous environment. So I think laughter is really important in a clinic. We all get busy, we all get behind, and we get stressed. But I try to make sure humor, one, and two, you're asking about the stuff in the community, domestic-wise. I run a free clinic for the underserved in San Diego. And these days a lot of people have insurance, but there are still people out there that don't have any health insurance. And so for us, a lot of these are Mexican immigrants in San Diego. I teach the residents and the medical students there. And even though as a subspecialist, I don't do general ophthalmology in my practice, it's a good way to keep my skills up and kind of remember how I used to do things.
All right, how is this organized? It's just you doing it by yourself?
Right, so it's basically UCSD residents and medical students twice per month on a Monday night. The family medicine department at UCSD organizes it, and they take cares for people who have no insurance at all. And it's not only are you very grateful when you drive home, and this is at the end of the day, so the clinics runs from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. So when I'm driving home, usually, to be honest, at the end of the day, I'm pretty tired. And I go, well, I got my free clinic. And I'm not always very excited about driving down there, but every time I drive home, I'm still happy about it. So.
I can feel somebody. This is a gift I have. I can feel somebody in the room. It's over in this direction. They're saying, wait a minute, whoa. I'm getting to work at 6:30 in the morning. It's stronger over here. I'm seeing a full morning of clinics. I go to a lousy lecture at noon. Oh, wow, it's intense here right now. And then I go back and see another whole bunch of clinic. And then I have to play with the EMR for 15 or 20 minutes after work. And then I'm going to go to another clinic. Help me understand that. Where's the joy and the passion of that? Well, if you like what you're doing, just do more of it. Do it for free.
Right, so I have no social life, which is why I'm to be honest, it's only twice a month, but the entertainment I get from the residents and the medical students, I used to do a lot of volunteer stuff abroad with Orbis International and other organizations, and I've seen everything from when the resident is first learning how to put the indirect. The funniest story is that the first time I saw one of the places we were at, I said, why don't you take a look at the fundus before we sign this patient up for surgery? And I turn around, I look at the patient, and now the indirect is sitting on the patient's head because they didn't know how to use the indirect. So some of these basic things, to see the medical students see the fundus for the first time. You all remember the first time you saw the retina. I do plastics. I don't see the retina a lot, but I still think it's amazing. It's really fantastic that first time, and to see the medical student for the first time. And so many medical students don't see the back of the eye when they graduate. Now you have a dilated eye. You put the indirect on there, and they see the optic nerve. It's really, that excitement is really cool. So.
Wonderful. Organic joy that comes from volunteer service. I want to know one thing from each of you. Be careful, you're in a large crowd. Tell me one thing outside of the world of seeing today's patients and tomorrow's surgery that you do that gives energy to your life.
I travel. So it is within our world, because part of what I do when I travel is I see patients abroad and I teach abroad. So many of you have, because I read a lot of the residency applications, you all want to go out and save the world. You've done a lot of global health stuff. And, after a long day of the EMR and the seeing patients, et cetera, traveling, combining the travel and that sense of newness with hopefully what you love to do, ophthalmology, is incredible. So there's something about going to somewhere new. Your senses are heightened. What you see, what you hear, what you smell, those are all new. But more importantly, when you go abroad, when you travel, or even to a different city, you push yourself outside of your comfort zone. And suddenly you're the student again, where you're learning. Coupled with the ability to give back, to teach. We work in Tanzania. Many of you were here earlier when Jeff Petty got his Artemis Award. The team at Moran and the team at Weill Cornell, we go to Tanzania twice a year. And there's nothing more fulfilling, I think, of taking that patch off post-op day one after cataract surgery. And it reminds you why you went into medicine, why you went into ophthalmology. So after a long day or a long week, these moments of inspiration that I get, it's ironic. I say, how do you avoid burnout? To work more, but it's a different type of work. And it really inspires you, engages you, and when you come back, you are so energized to see that patient.
Wonderful. Does anybody do stand-up comedy? Is anybody a magician? Anybody else do anything else besides their work life that, wine tasting? Tell us, Nisha, what kinds of things do you do?
All right, I'll be honest. I live in Manhattan, and I got to take a break sometimes from work. So, full disclosure, I'm a big foodie, and I make sure that I, incorporate that into my work-life balance.
Give us an example.
So, I'm always on Eater trying to find, the next big hit in Manhattan. And I actually find that helps me to sort of stir up conversation with my patients when they come in. We have a very diverse population where we practice on the Upper East Side near Harlem. And I think food is a great way to sort of transition into learning about different cultures. It helps me to connect with my patients.
Trini, you're single. You must do a lot of wild things on your free time. In San Diego, my gosh.
So it's funny you mentioned that. So last night.
Oh, good.
There's, I don't know, do you guys know who James Thurber is? So James Thurber, he wrote short stories, and one of them was The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And so last night, I was with Jeff Tabin, actually, who many of you know, and many of you probably picked ophthalmology because of him. But Jeff Tabin was next to me, and Sean Penn was watching jazz next to me as well. Wow. So I was explaining to Sean Penn how his character in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is what I aspire to, because I'm in the office all the time imagining myself, scaling a mountain and coming across this beautiful woman to impress and all these kind of things. But really, I'm just working as an eye surgeon. And so I told him that, Jeff Tabin is kind of the guy that is the ophthalmologist that does all these things. He's scaled the 7 summits and climbed Everest, and I try to do these things, but really, exercise for me is what I use for my passion to sort of help relax. And travel, certainly, we all love to travel. But in solo private practice, it becomes a little bit more challenging to travel because somebody has to cover you for those patients. So there is a practical element to that. But yes, for me, travel and exercise, I think, is really important, especially in our specialty. And that's something that nobody told me when I was in your shoes. I've seen so many of my mentors that have had neck injuries that can't operate anymore. Malpractice insurance, not just malpractice, disability insurance is really important. You think it's easy, but eventually it will catch up to you. So I would say, exercise is so important, especially, Dr. Fountain was talking about her colleague that had the heart issue or the intestinal issue. These things do happen. So I think personal health, I would put as number one.
Wonderful, uplifting information, good tips to follow. Always find a way to carve out extra activities to keep yourself fresh and find space in your heart to give back to others. Thank you again. Please give them a warm round of applause. And if you want to continue the conversations with any of these, simply send an email to yo@aao.org. We have a cut-in question. Anybody have a question right now? A live question.
Yeah, before we have these panelists come off, if we can, field some questions here. Does anyone have a question about wellness or the passions they've seen? Or I think that one important thing to consider, which is sort of, if you read between the lines of what everyone says, is, there are sort of these reward units you get for everything that you do, and you have to decide for yourself. There's a slope between how much energy you invest and how much you get back from it. I think that's all the examples that each of you have shared with us represent that slope, and the more you give, the more you get back, which is, I think, a really almost counterintuitive phenomenon. But does anyone have any questions about things they've sort of participated in or opportunities they'd like to seek? And you come up with them, so yes.
Can any of you share, maybe Grace, like where do you find these opportunities to go abroad?
Great question. Where do you find these opportunities?
Thank you, Purnima. So I have to put in a plug for our course, which is Monday afternoon at 4:30. It's targeted towards YOs, you all who are interested in going abroad. So it's international opportunities for young ophthalmologists, how to start now and sustain it through your career. The other thing is the Academy has a ton of resources in global ophthalmology. I chair the international subcommittee of the YO group. And if you are interested, please contact me. We love to sort of engage our YOs internationally, whether or not you want to volunteer abroad. And online, there's something called Global Ophthalmology Resources. There are a ton of videos that you can access about world blindness, et cetera, by experts in the field, such as Al Summer, Dave Friedman, and then there's something called the Go Guide that you guys can contribute to in terms of writing about the countries that you're interested in and learning a little bit more about the ophthalmic diseases that affect them.
Yes, another question.
Do you have any advice on getting support from your employers for doing these things, either like domestically or abroad? How do you find that they back you to do that while you still run your practice?
How do we get support for these activities?
Eye Care America is pretty easy. Like I said, most of the patients are insured, so you're just getting them back into the system. It's not usually a problem at most practices. And I think the glaucoma population is where you're really making a difference, because a lot of these patients, so I forgot to mention, through the seniors program, this is for free care for patients over 65, but through Eye Care America, any person who's at high risk for glaucoma can be screened. And, who won't support that? It's one visit that they're coming in, they're getting screened. It actually doesn't even require a visual field, so there's not really a financial burden. Refraction isn't included. It's just dilated exam, tonometry, evaluation of the optic nerve. And then if they're determined to be high risk for glaucoma, Eye Care America helps you plug them into other places that can continue their care. So I don't find that, in many situations that practices aren't supportive of it. And just a plug for Eye Care America, you can sign up on eyecareamerica.org. If you sign up now, we're having a reception from 3 to 5 for all members, and they will welcome you as a member if you sign up now.
For internationally, I would say that you can join a practice or an academic practice, for example, that supports that mission. So I work for Cornell. Our Tanzania project and our Mauritius project is part of the academic mission. So, we're not paid to go there. We take our own time. However, it is part of what the institution would like to do. And I know that there are many practices, private groups, where you are like-minded. I think that earlier, how do you find a job? And it's nice to find like-minded people that you work with. And they cover for each other when they go abroad. So it is possible, but it is nice to know what's important to you, to get a very supportive environment. I have a very supportive chair.
Great. Thank you to our panelists.